So this is the file we got. It has most of the functionality, and the main layout of this web page is already done. Also, some responsiveness has been added to the CSS, and we are left to adding some functionality that the client wants to this page. So that's what this video is about. The functionality we want to add, you can check that out on the real publish side. So if you go to the website, whose address is yonoscierrolosojos.com, you will see more or less the same file. So here are the three things we are going to add to this page. First, we want to add the slider. So the top image, rather than being a static one, should be in a slider, and we should be able to drag it. This one is not dragging, so ours should drag with the mouse or with the finger if we try it out on a mobile device. It has some dots for navigation here, so if you click on the second dot, you will go to the next image and the third one and so on. Okay, so we should add that functionality because by now our site just have one static image there at the top. Okay, but if you check your HTML, your zip, you will find the rest of the images there. So we have banner 1, number 1 to number 6. So it's just a matter of adding them and adding the slider and converting this into a slider. The second functionality that we are going to add, you can try it out as well on the real site when you scroll on the site. So you can see the difference when I'm scrolling. At some point, now I'm just scrolling through this content here, and this sidebar is fixed, and also this top menu is fixed. Okay, and if I scroll back, at some point they free themselves from that fixed position and start flowing with the rest of the document as they originally did. Okay, so we are going to also add that functionality. By now, or right now, our menu and our sidebar just keep scrolling with the rest of the content as they should do normally. Okay, so we will add some classes to actually make or pin this thing into the browser so that we can keep scrolling on the rest of the content, but these two stay fixed on their position. Finally, the third functionality we want to add is we want to open some videos. We are going to add those videos right from YouTube channel, but we don't want the user to go to the YouTube channel, and most certainly we don't want the user to, as we are doing now, we don't want the user to click on a video and then replace our web page with YouTube. And then if the user just clicks here and then here, who knows where he is now, right? So we don't want that to happen. We close that before something weird happens. So rather than that, when he clicks on the videos, we want to open them on a nice lightbox, right? Like a pop-up window that's we are still on the same side. And if the user clicks escape or clicks here on this light gray area, we should go back to the site, no problem. Okay? So those are the three things we are going to be working on today. So let's start with the first one, the slider. For the slider, we could use any slider that we can download and insert. Since we already know jQuery, there's a bunch of sliders made out based on jQuery that you can go on and grab there and just use for free. If you just Google top jQuery, top 10 jQuery, carousels or sliders, they're the same. I don't know, let's just open the first link we got from Google and let's see which one he recommends. So Slick Carousel, Owl Carousel, BX Slider, Light, Nebo, and a bunch of them. I've used these three, and they are quite easy to use. The Owl Carousel is responsive, so I would actually change this part, and I can show you some examples of that later on. So I do recommend these three at most. Today we are going to let's work with the first one, with the Slick Slider. In this exercise, last time I did this exercise, I was using the BX slider. That's why you will find this file there and on the CSS, just leaving them, no harm. but we are going to use a different slider. But all of them work more or less the same. You have to download some JS, some JavaScript code, some CSS code, and then with 2 or 3 lines of code, you trigger the carousels on the elements you want to become sliders. And that's pretty much it. So the one we're going to be using today is called Slick Slider. No, we don't have that, so we have to look for it and download it. So suppose you just Google which are the best jQuery carousels out there, and you just saw a list and you saw the name Slick Slider, so you just Google that one. And you have a GitHub page for where you can check the slider. So click on the first link, click on the first Google link. That will take you to the Slick Slider webpage. And from there, we are going to download it and also learn how to use it. So if you just scroll the page or just click on the demos, you will go to the default options. So when you add the carousel, this is how it should look like from scratch. So it should be draggable, as you can see, and it has some nice dots there and some arrows. And then you have some options. You could show multiple items there. It could be responsive, so that means at some specified width, show 3 items. Then maybe if it's smaller, you just show 2 of them, and in the smaller scenarios, you just show 1 item at a time. Okay? So that's a nice thing to have. And a bunch of settings, okay? So variable width, adaptive height, and stuff. If you go to usage, we're going to learn how to use it. So it says it's like a recipe. If we follow it correctly, it should work, okay? So the first step is to set up the HTML markup. And they suggest to have something like this. So we should have kind of a container that will hold all the slides for us. And each of these div will actually or eventually convert into a slide, okay? And all of our slides should be wrapped inside a div. And that div should have a class. And that class could be anything we want it to be. Okay, so that's the first step. So let's go to our HTML. We have it there. Let me just make some space. In these lines of code you will find, let me just try to zoom out as much as I can and hide the sidebar. So this is where we are going to put our carousel in, okay? This is the main banner container. For now, we are just seeing that image at the top of the screen, right? So we need to somehow convert this structure to fit the structure they want us to make, right? So what would you do here? Do we have a container with a class name? Yeah, we have it already. We have an image, so we need more images, and each image should be wrapped on its own div, right? So we could put this one inside a div. We don't want it to close here. We want it to close here at the end. That's good for slide number 1. And we should duplicate this 6 times, changing the name number, right? So I will do this with brackets the hard way. So just clicking Command D for duplicate. 3, 4, 5, 6.
6 divs.
And I will just change the names to 2, 3, I'm writing 4. As soon as you get the name of the correct file at the bottom suggested to you, you can click Enter, and that will replace the file completely. 6. So this is how it should look like at the end. We'll pause the video here.
Yes.
So if you save that and refresh your web page, what you will have is all the images. So this is my first image, and then there comes the second one and the third one, 4, number 5, and the 6th one. You can see it there more or less, right? So we have them there. That's right. It makes sense to look that way. Let's go to step number 2 on the Slick Slider. So we already have that structure, right? Next, we need to, well, they say move the Slick folder into your project. Actually, we need to copy some files into our project, okay? Let's do it manually. So at the end, what we need is some way to add this file. So we want to add some CSS. We also want to add this other CSS file. Yes? So, and then we also need to add one script file. So we need some CSS and some JavaScript files. Where do we get all those files? Well, we can get them if we go to the top of the page and click Get It Now. So here, this will give us a zip file that we can download and decompress. And inside that zip folder, we should find somewhere the CSS and the JS file needed for the carousel to work. Okay, so just click Download Now there. This will download a zip file. For now, I will save that zip file inside my home folder, so right where I have my index. Later on I will delete it, but for now I will just save the zip file there. That way you can find it right there on my working folder. So I have my index.html and I also have this zip file there. Well, I put it on my home folder. You can put it anywhere. Just put it anywhere and decompress it, because we want to look for some files inside that folder. So now that you have that folder, all that we needed, we can erase that zip already. And inside that folder, there's a bunch of files. Let me show them this way. So inside that folder, we have a bunch of files. We have a Slick folder there. And inside that Slick folder, we want to copy some files. Sorry for the guys seeing this video, but I will need to zoom out a little bit. That would make seeing things easier. So it's this one. And it should make sense which files to move where. I will tell you the files that I will be moving, and you will select this one, these files. And we are going to copy them to our CSS folder. Yes? So this is just a GIF image that will show when the images are loading into the carousel, when you use the lazy loading property. Some fonts probably for some icons or something, and then some CSS file for actually making the CSS adapt and move and so on. Okay? So select these 4 files, copy them, Command copy, Control copy, or whatever. And then we want to paste them where? We want to paste them inside our CSS folder. So on your working folder, where you downloaded the original file, in the CSS, just click Paste. So we should have now something like this. Now, that's good for the CSS. We need to get some JS. So if I go back to the Slick folder here, we also need this file. Okay? So we also need this is actually the programming file, or the code file that will actually make the slider work and move and so on, and interact with the user. Okay? It's minified. We also have a non-minified version, which should be easier to read. Doesn't mean that you understand it, but you should at least be able to read it. But if you want to read this one, good luck with that. But the file is half the size of the non-minified one. So that's why we choose this one, because since we are not going to change it in any way anyhow. So copy that, and where do you think we're going to paste them? In our folder structure? Yes, so go to JS and paste it. So now you should have it there. And now you can erase that folder altogether. We don't need that anymore, because we already have the JS file that we needed, and we already added some of the files. Yeah, you don't need it anymore. So these are the core files you need for the slider to work. Now that we have them on the correct folders, we need to link them to the web page. Okay? That's what the next step is about. So I think I closed it already. No. So if you go to usage, we already created that, downloaded the file. So it says you need to have these 2 CSS files. We already have them there, right?
Yes.
On the correct folders. There they are. This one and this one. So we just need to link them using the link tag in our web page. So go to your web page, go to the head of the document, and probably we want to do that before our styles. So here I will just write a comment. These are the slick slider CSS, right? So link href CSS, and it's that one first, I think. Yeah, so that one first. Rel style sheet, this is important. And then another one, the theme, right? Rel style sheet. And I will make a pause here. So we already added the two style sheets. So check mark to this step. And then we also need a slick.js, right? We have the minified version. And since the script is based on jQuery, we should load jQuery before that, okay? So we should add the slick min.js after we already loaded jQuery. Yes? We don't have jQuery added anyway, so let's add the two of them. So first we need to add jQuery. Since jQuery is a script, we don't use the link tag, rather we use what? The script tag. And instead of using the href, we use a source attribute. Yes? Inside JS, you do have a jQuery file already there, waiting for you. So come. And this should close like this. And I should also grab the one for the carousel, right? But so it's called slick min.js. Oh, come on. Why is it not closing? So that's all you need for including the file. So we included the CSS, we included jQuery, and we also included the slick min carousel. Okay? I will wait here. Okay, so now that you have all that ready, let's go to the last step for making this slider. So again, we are just following the recipe here. So we downloaded we created our markup, we downloaded and copy and move the specified files, and then the last step is to initialize the slider. And the code should be quite self-explanatory. Let me just try to move it. So typically in jQuery, the code starts with this line that says, wait for the document to be ready before doing anything. Okay? That makes sense. We want the page to be already loaded if we're going to try to look something inside it. Okay? So typically we do something like this. Now here we are looking for the wrapper, the element that we want to use as the wrapper for the slides, and we are going to trigger the slick method on it. Now this slick method was created by the guys that created the slick carousel, so as long as we adhere to that, it should work. It can have different options inside it to tune up the carousel, have more slides, make it autoplay, I don't know. We are going to explore some of them in a minute. But you could run it without any values, and it should run the default values of the slider. So let's try that out. Where is a good place to write your code, your JavaScript code? So at the bottom, and just before closing the body tag. Why? Because we are trying to wait until the document is ready. So that's why we also use this document ready method, right? Here it says, so it will do something when the document object model, is fully loaded. So when the HTML has finished loading.
Is that something we always have to put?
That's like a good practice in jQuery. So something like this. So all your code, you could copy this and have it handy in a file. So whenever you want to type or do anything with jQuery, you just paste it and start here writing your code. So everything that we are going to write today will live inside these curly braces. So keep your indentation correct to make the code look more beautiful and in order to find stuff more easily later on, okay? So what we want to do is just stick to the rules. Look for the element that we want to convert and apply the method slick. So in our case, our banner has this class, right? So this is the element we want to look up for. Yes?
Yes.
So copy that or have it in your brain, main banner container. And then at the bottom, we should look for something with the class main banner container and apply the slick method to it, and that's it. So let me show you what happens so the video goes quicker. So this will select that div and convert it or try to convert it into a slider. So if everything works well, it should work now. So go to your page, refresh it. It's always a good idea to open the console to check for errors. If you don't have any errors on the console, it should definitely work. And you can try that out by dragging the image, and you should get to the next one if it works. Okay? The default options work by dragging. You do have some errors there that we are not seeing due to some CSS, but you should be able to drag the slides. And I will make a pause here. What if it doesn't work? What things do I need to check? So here's a checklist. Go to your page. First, checklist. Believe me, it happens a lot. Check that you really saved your file, because sometimes you don't save it. You go to the browser and nothing is there, of course. So make sure you save it. Now, as silly as it sounds, make sure the file you are opening in the browser is actually the file you are working on in brackets. Believe me, it happens. You are working on the incorrect file and you are not seeing the changes. Of course, you don't. Okay? If you are positive about that information, move to step number 2, which is look in the console. Okay, so view, in Chrome, view, developer, developer tools, or shortcut Alt Command I. This will open the developer tools. You can go to any tab, open the console tag, and if you don't have any red text out there, check. Go to step number 3. Check if the libraries were loaded correctly. You can check the source of the web page if you go to view, developer, view source, shortcut Alt Command U or Alt Control U in Windows. That takes you to the HTML. The nice thing is that you can click on stuff. So double check these for links. They should work. Just click on it. It should take you to some CSS of the slider. That's right. Pass. The second one should take you to another thing that looks like a CSS. Okay. The third one should go to some jQuery file. Yeah, it sure looks like the jQuery file. Looks fine. And the last one should be a bunch of functions, yeah, for the slick carousel. So check number 3, everything works. Next step, of course, double check your code to check if it's correct. And if all of these are good and you still don't say anything, just call me and I will happy to assist you. So now that it works, eventually I think we will leave it more or less that way, the normal way, so that way. But you can play with some other stuff here on the carousel. If you go to settings, you will have a full list of, this is the API of the carousel, the methods you can run on it, and the variables you can pass on it, and the values you can give to those variables, okay? So you can see that it has, for example, an autoplay. Makes sense, right, to have an autoplay on a slider?
Yes.
The values this variable accepts are always Boolean. So which values could you send to that variable? Just true or false. And it defaults to false. So if you don't set it anyway, it will default to false, okay? Now let's change that one. So go to your carousel, and by default, we didn't provide any properties or parameters to that method. But we can do that quite easily just by adding a curly brace, opening and closing curly braces. I will just hit enter there. And inside here, we can type any of these variables and assign any value that it accepts. So we want to play with the autoplay value, and we will set it to true. If you save that and refresh your code and don't click anything, and after 4 or 5 seconds, I don't know what's the default time, it should advance automatically to the next screen, and it's not doing anything. So troubleshoot, number 1, check for errors. Did I? It should just move to the next one. I think I'm not on the... so it's moving, but it's taking too long, right? I was hoping that to happen a little bit faster. No? So let me reopen it. Let me close that, and I think it's this one, right? Hopefully. Now it's working faster, so more or less 4 seconds to move from slide to slide. That's fine. There are other things you could play with. So, for example, if you go to the demos there, where are there? The demos. You have the single item there. You can show multiple items. So, if you would like to, you could. So here's what you need to type. So infinite true will loop through them. Okay. It will clone the items to make it look like it's an infinite slider. Okay. And you can decide how many slides to show and how many slides to scroll. So if I said, for example, something like this. That means it will be infinite, and I will be showing 3 slides, and I will be scrolling in steps of 3. Okay? Yes. So if you refresh your website now, this is not the one, this one. You can see that now I have 3 slides, and I can scroll, and they will move 3 by 3. If you change the step to 1, right, you will still show 3 images, but you will be moving 1 by 1 when you scroll. Enough. Okay? So yeah, you can play with that too. Let's try the responsive. I will just copy it and paste it from the example. So look at what it has. It has a dots true. The dots true is also interesting. It will add some property, some dots at the bottom of the carousel, just as you can see them here. They look quite nice. Okay. And as you can see, if you specify only one property, then you don't need a comma. But if you will specify 2 or more, you need a comma to divide them. And of course, the last one shouldn't have any trailing comma at the end. Okay? I will just copy and paste this for the responsive, because the responsive is kind of long to write. But I hope it makes sense to you. It says something like, if the width of the screen is up to 1024, display 3 items. If it's up to 600 or from 600 to 1000, display 2 items. From 488 to 600, display 1 item at a time. So that's the responsive part of it. I will just copy that and paste it there. I will just move it a little bit to the right. In fact, I will. Yeah, just leave it there. So I just copy and paste the example to try it out, and I should have 4 images if my screen resolution is bigger than 1024, and so on. So yeah, I have 4 items there, and as soon as I start making this smaller, now I have 3 items, so it seems to be working. And if I do it smaller, there should be a point where I have 2 items. Yeah, there it is. And then there should be a point where I have just 1 item. So it's kind of working. Also, the responsive part looks nice. I like it that way. So, but no, I mean, I always want to show 1 item, so I don't need any of this. I will be ending just leaving the dots true. That's the only property I want to turn on. So this is, I'm happy with that result, and it looks this way. The image adapts nicely to different screens, so I will be able to drag it or click on the dots there. So it looks nice. Of course, you could change the CSS of the dots to fit the design, because they wanted, if you check the final design, they did keep the they did keep the dots there, but they changed a little bit the design. Oh, come on. And they moved them to the top and changed their decoration, so they look a little bit different from these ones here. Okay, but I will just stick with those ones by now. So we can move to step number 2. Step number 2 will be fixing these menus once we hit exactly this point, when with this black menu, when this black menu hits the top of the page, we want to make them sticky and stay there in order for the rest of the content to keep scrolling, but having them fixed on their position. So the final result is this. Once they click the top of the page, we continue scrolling, but just these elements, okay? And then when we go back, we should be able to unpin them from the screen and be able to move them. So for doing that, we don't need any library there. We could program this from scratch, okay? So in jQuery, we can listen to the scroll of an element. So we could look for the window and listen to the scroll event. I think that's the right way of doing it. I don't know, let me just double check that. Here. 355, this is scroll top. Yeah, so it's working, kind of, yeah. So in jQuery, we can listen to other events. Right now, I'm listening to the event of scrolling in the object window, which is the web page. And every time I scroll, I will trigger this function. And the thing, I'm just printing in the console how far have I have scrolled so far. Yeah? So remember, this points to the object that triggered the function. So who triggered the function? The window object. And we are trying to know what's the distance of the scroll top of that object. How far have I scrolled on the web page? Okay? If you refresh it on the top, as soon as you start scrolling, I will do it softly, you will see how far I have scrolled on the page. And if you keep scrolling down and down, it will give you the amount on pixels. How many pixels have you scrolled down the image? Okay? Then I'm going back in, so I can go forward or backward. So we have that number there, which is nice. We can know how many pixels we have scrolled, because we want to know that, for example, here, exactly at that time, so when I scroll 374 pixels, I should make those items sticky. But for some other resolutions, so for example, for this resolution, this one, the correct number will be something like 423. So we cannot use a fixed number to tell when do we want to change the look and feel of these items. But we can use what? How much do we need to scroll before this menu should be or must be fixed or pinned to the browser? No, but yeah, I mean, that's the number here. But if I move the screen, now we have a different number. So how can we find a number that will fit any screen?
Percentage?
Okay, so we know how much have we scrolled, and we want to know the height of this item, because as soon as we have the scroll exactly the height of this item, we want to change the placement of this, and this should be fixed on the bottom. We already have the fixed classes written to save some time, so let me just show them to you quite fast. So in the CSS, in the styles, if you look for fixed, you will see a bunch of classes. For example, when we have our menu, and when we add to the menu the class fixed, it will change its position to fixed, right? And it will leave 0 space from top to it, and will be 100% of width, and so on. And we have a huge C index in order for that element to be on top of everything, okay? So when we add the class to this element menu, when we add the fixed class to the element menu, it will be fixed. And when it doesn't have that class, it won't be fixed, okay? So how do we do this in?
CSS,
No, but we have to do it in jQuery, right? Because that will depend on the scroll. Yes? So since here we know how much we scroll, we can check against the height of what? What's the name of the banner? How can we select it? Remember? Well, it's this one, right? So we can ask the height of that. So I will do it in separate variables so you can see it more clearly. Usually I will do it on the same line, but let's just do it like this. Bar scroll amount. Just scroll. Scroll position. This is how much we have scrolled. And I also want to know the height of the banner. So banner height. And that will be what? Look for this guy and get its height. So we have height. That will get the compute height of the element. Okay. So we have that. Now we can make an if, right? If we scroll more than the banner height, then we should pin the elements. Otherwise, we just unpin them. So again, every time we are scrolling, so this is an expensive function because it will be triggered lots of times when the user scrolls, right? At every time it will be calculating how far have I scrolled. We could calculate this one outside the scroll event. That would be better, but I will just leave it there. And we are every time checking if we scroll beyond the banner. If we did scroll beyond the banner, we should pin the elements. Otherwise, we just unpin them. That's what this code does. So we still need to pin them. How do we pin them? We add that fixed class to them, right? So the elements we want to pin, if you inspect that in your code, one of the elements we want to pin is called So here, sorry. One is called menu, right? So it has the class menu in it. And we want to add the class fixed. Look what happens. If I add it, I will add it manually right now. It fixes the menu in the top of the screen, as you can see, right? And if I remove it, it will just continue with this normal flow. So to pin that element, we need to add the fixed class to it. So look for something with class menu and what? Add class fixed. And to unpin it, what do? Look for that element and remove that class. Yes? Let me finish the example and then I give you some time to finish it. Because we also want to do that with this one. If I save it like this, it will work, but just with the menu. You can see that the menu is correctly pinning, but this sidebar here continues to move further away. So that sidebar is where? If you inspect that one, it's called main right. Yes? So main right should be also pinned. Okay? So we could select it here. Main right. Yes? So this will select this guy and add the class to it, and it will also select this guy and add that class to him. Let's see if that works. So save it. So when we get there, no, it's not working. Let's go to the console. Probably we have some errors there. It looks like we don't. So how could you troubleshoot this? You can check if you are entering here. So I don't know, let's just print that on the console. This will be a Boolean, right? So this should be true or false, hopefully. Yeah, so true or false. False when I am not beyond the point. And then as soon as I get beyond the point, should be true. Yeah, so right there, and then, so probably this selector is incorrect. So you don't select things like that. Oh, sorry about that. So let's just duplicate this and leave this one like that, and leave this one like that. Duplicate this guy, and do it both times. Yeah, just let me show you how it looks like, and then I give you some time on this screen. So if you save that and refresh it, now it should work. But it's not working with the sidebar. So what's the name of the element that I need to pin off? It's the sidebar, right? So min right. So the class is not correct. I don't remember how I named the class. Let's just sneak peek here. More or less fast. So is this main right? I think no. So we should add it to the main class. Fix it clear. Menu fixed. Okay. So we should add it to the container Twitter. That's how we named it. And we should also ask to the main class the fixed clear. That's to clear that jumping space there. So let me just finish that and then I will refer you. So to the menu we add the fixed. To the main we add the fixed clear. And to the main and to the what? To the Twitter, what's the name? Container Twitter. We add the fixed class, otherwise we remove it. So this will be more or less the same here. We just need to remove and remove. This should work if everything goes as planned. So yeah, it's kind of working. I'm able to scroll and I pin the elements, then I move them. So I will pause the video here. Super, so now it works, looks nice. I have my scroll there. You can see we have a little jump there. I don't know if you can see it. Because the height of this one is not taking into account the height of this one. So if I would really like to make it a little bit better, I can see that the size of this is roughly 24. So I could make a small hack here of adding that 24 to the height. Let's see if that helps a little bit. Oh, I should subtract it. No, that's right, no? Oh, no. So it's not liking that. So let's move it from here. It should work. That's a number, right? Yeah, so now as you can see, I scroll the point and I give it 24 pixels more before triggering the function. And as I still have a little bit of a jump, hold on, I'm 26 to it. That makes the jumps even worse. Yeah, I still have some jump in there. I should check the fixed clear class and so on. But let's just move to the next part. Now that this works, I will just remove this from the file so it doesn't jump out at you. So it's working. We are fixing these dips there, and we can continue to scroll the rest of the document. That's nice. Let's go to the last part. And in this last part, what we want to do is add a lightbox. So as I told you, instead of when you click on the video, instead of going to the YouTube channel, I want to actually something like this should happen. When you click on that, it should try to open the video inside the web. And the same thing should happen for every image. So if you want to open one of those images, it should open them on a lightbox inside the same page and don't take you away of the page. Right now, if you click on the images, the first ones, it just takes you to the image completely, right? So it's actually replacing the web page with that JPEG, and we don't want that to happen, of course. So let's look for some lightboxes. So again, since we know jQuery, we could look for top jQuery lightbox. So let's look for something more or less recent. So we have, I don't know, strip, lighter box. I was using one of which one did I use? Yeah, we want to support YouTube videos, so maybe we'll look for something like jQuery, Lightbox, YouTube. Yeah, it has one which is called the echo or something like that, right? So if you go to your JS, you will find this file there. So maybe we look for that one. I will just leave that there. So it looks like we have one there. It has a file. It would be nice to see a demo or something to check it. So we have an example single image. So it kind of opens that on a Lightbox, okay? And the idea is more or less the same than we did with the slider. We should get a bunch of, probably a JS file, a CSS file. Here it says, right, you have to have the CSS and the JS file, and then you need to write some code. And this code will actually trigger anything that you give a data toggle to. It will try to convert it into a Lightbox link. Okay, so instead of using the default linking behavior that will be open in that file, we will do something else. So this event prevent default is preventing the browser from actually going to YouTube or trying to open that image in the browser. Okay, instead of that, it will just pass the information to the, in this case, the Echo Lightbox plugin, and the plugin will be in charge of displaying, loading that and displaying it on top of the page. So since we have that one already, let's just try to use it. And for that, let's just copy that example that they have there. So let's double check that we have the slider there. I think we're missing the CSS for that. Which file am I opening? Okay, so I'm already a little bit lost, so let's just reopen the file. Should be this one. And I wanted to check, because there is some CSS for the echo box there, and there's some JS for the echo box. So let's add those two all together. So go to your file, and I'm back at the head of the document. So we have the slick slider and the jQuery and the slick, and we also want to add the echo lightbox or something like that, right? So let's add the CSS for it. And let's also add the script for it. Yes, I will wait here in a second. So I'm just adding these files. You have them already on your folder structure, so you just need to point to them on your HTML. And that should give us the ability of writing on our script something with that. We also have, as you can see, we also have pre-tagged. I pre-tag the videos that we want to open and probably the images. So yeah, you can see that all the images have this data toggle lightbox. That will make, this is like a selector, and that will make us convert all those links and change them from the default behavior that will be open in this JPG file. Rather than that, we will just try to open it on the Lightbox. So the last piece of code that we are missing after inserting this, we are again trying to just follow the directions of this Echo Lightbox. So it says install, get jQuery, and the CSS files, and then you should add data toggle to your anchor tags. As you can see, they added data toggle lightbox. And then you select all of these items in jQuery, prevent the default behavior of the link, and run an echo lightbox otherwise. So let's try that out. I will just go to the bottom of my file. So I'm still inside the document ready. And I did my main container slick, that's for the slider. And I also wrote some scrolling event for fixing the menu, and then I want to do something for the lightbox. So this should kind of work, maybe. Let's try that out, and I can wait for you if it works, and if it doesn't, I will just pause the video and try. So I don't have any errors. When I click on this, I do get some errors when I click on that one, okay? So let me just pause the video for a second to check that error. The problem. So the problem is that this file works only when you run it through the server, okay? So what I did was I just copied this folder all together, all this file, and for now I paste them inside my htdocs folder in MAMP, and then I am trying this on my local server, okay? You could upload that to the server, to the UXP server, and try that out, and it should work. The code is right, the code is correct, so we don't need to do anything else, right? We are adding an event listener to these data toggle lightboxes, and anytime the user clicks on them, we just don't open that link, but send that to the lightbox, and the lightbox will take care for the rest of the things for us, okay? And you can see that it works on any item. It opens the lightbox, looks quite good. But if you try it on local, so if you just double click on the file and open it, and you try that one, you will get an error, okay? So you should try that on the server, but it should work. I will pause the video here.